Hi everyone, before we go into the podcast, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm super grateful for your continued loyalty and support. If you could do me a quick favour, if you could give me a review on Apple Podcasts, it really helps the algorithm and it will help this podcast go up the lists. If there are any subjects or topics that you want me to cover, then please do reach out to me on DM on LinkedIn and I will do my best to find the best guest for that subject or topic. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. This podcast will give you insight into business. I will share my thoughts, ideas from content leaders and experiences from my life. And I hope you'll have a few aha moments on this journey. Today I'm going to talk about entrepreneurs' biggest mistakes. Today we're going to have a slight difference from our usual interviews. The interviews will be back next Monday, so don't worry, they will continue. It's just I wanted to do something special today because I think that we all need to think about this as entrepreneurs. So today I'm going to talk about the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make. And I've got a list that I'm going to go through, and I'd really be interested in your feedback, whether you think this is important, what areas do you think are the places where most people make their biggest mistakes and where the easiest quick wins can be. So first thing is, entrepreneur biggest mistake is they start a business that isn't needed. So often this happens and people start something that they think there is a need for without testing and validating the market. So they start a business quickly without fully thinking through the whole process or whether actually anyone wants it. Because if you don't have people that want your business, then you're never going to be successful. So you do need to think about, is this business actually required? They failed to do their market research. Often people do this and they don't test the market and understand the market research. Is there anyone else who is a competition to you? Competition actually is quite good in business because it means that there's already a need for it in the market. So it's covering both these first 2 points. And doing market research, you then understand what your price point is, what your costs are to provide this product or service. So it's really important that before you start business, you actually do think about your market research. Is there a need for it? Is anyone else producing it? If they are, then do some research on them. Work out how much they're costing, how much they're charging, and then move on from there. Sometimes people lose their objectivity about the product or service they're providing. So they get so obsessed with the idea of creating a business, starting a business, and they don't target some of these other areas we're going to talk about, like sales and marketing, enough. And they just lose their objectivity. They don't think they can hemorrhage a lot of money if you don't think about the products and services that you're actually providing. Don't worry about anything else. Don't get too logged in your idea that you have to start this business without testing the market. So the fourth point I want to talk about is that people don't have enough money. So at the start of any business, there is outgoings that you're going to need. You're going to need if it's a product, if it's say something like a perfume or something like that. Have you thought about how much money you're going to need to be able to create your first batch? Are you able, if it's a service, are you able to see whether you're able to have the costs that may be related? Now, there is a lot going on social media about creating businesses for low cost, and that is absolutely right. But if you're leaving your job to start this business, you obviously need an income as well. So people don't think through whether they've got enough money to be able to start a business. That is a common error that people make. And often I've heard it before, people that I've met through my journey that have started businesses and had to give it up after 12 months. The fifth one is they fail to create a business plan. You need to be able to have a plan of where you're going. And you can check out my one-page business plan, which I will share on probably in LinkedIn quite soon, to be able to see what that business plan looks like. Number 6 is they don't invest in their marketing. So they need to be able to generate leads, and then you can convert them into sales, but you need to be able to generate the leads first of all. So you need to be able to do your marketing effectively. Now, there are any number of courses, things on podcasts, on YouTube, on how to get your marketing right. Equally, I'm sure I've if you look through the list of all my podcasts, I must have done half a dozen different things on marketing and different marketing strategies. But you do need to be able to generate leads. The next one is they don't prioritize sales enough. Often, this is not always the case, often people are not really geared up for selling. And therefore they struggle with it, and they don't convert those leads that you've generated with your marketing effectively. And often people that aren't really salesmen try and do the sales, which often leads in problems and errors. And that's why they don't prioritize their sales. Sometimes you need a professional sales team, which I would advise doing commission only, and actually convert those leads into sales. You need sales to be able to keep your business afloat. So don't get too bogged down with other sort of priorities, because you do need to have sales. Next point I want to talk about is they try and do everything themselves. And I am a little bit guilty of that. I run 3 or 4 businesses and try and do a lot of it myself. And I think that is sometimes an error in people's, because they don't realize that they might not have the time to do everything, which I think is often the case. Secondly, they might not be qualified enough to be able to do that. For example, the point before on sales. So they try and do everything themselves, and they get overwhelmed, and they start losing leads, and they don't convert them into sales, and then you haven't got enough money. Do you see all of these points are just married all together, and they keep on building up until entrepreneurs make the biggest mistake, which is giving up. Sometimes number 9 is they create a website that people can't find you. They sometimes think that a website is all they need, and then they'll be able to build up through SEO. SEO is a long-term gain. You need to think about how people can find you easily. Now that might be Facebook ads, that might be leafleting, that might be it might be Google ads. There might be LinkedIn ads. There's a lot of options for you. But just creating a website and then fingers crossed it will work out is not a very good strategy. And the last point is that they don't get the right support to mitigate their limitations. So sometimes people aren't qualified to do what they're trying to do, and therefore they don't get the support they require. For example, you might want to do your own tax return. You don't have the time to do your tax return. Employ an accountant to do that professionally. You might want to try and sort out your legals, but I would suggest getting a lawyer or solicitor to be able to do that professionally and be able to mitigate the limitations that you have. Okay, guys, that is it for today. They are the 10 reasons. They're the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make. Hopefully you find that useful and helpful, and hopefully I can stop some of you guys failing in your businesses, because you are out there. I know you're listening. You need to think about those 10 points. Maybe listen to this a couple of times to think about what are the areas that you're failing, which potentially might end your business. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the downloads and all the subscriptions. If you've got anything that you would like to add, then please do DM me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer questions there. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.